Welcome to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton, where we talk about legal matters that impact your life and your community issues that help you live the best life. The information presented on Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton should not be considered to be formal legal advice nor the formation of a lawyer-client relationship. It's time to talk justice. Now here's your host, Jennifer Burton.
Welcome to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton, here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI, the news and talk of East Tennessee. Thanks for tuning in this evening. I'm your host, Jennifer Burton. So excited to have you guys back. This show's relatively new to the area. This is our third official show. We reran show one just to kind of get it up and moving, but this is our third live show that we're doing. And I just want to introduce myself, let you guys kind of know who I am, what I'm about, and kind of what we're doing here on Justice Talks. Justice Talks is not just a show about your legal needs. We are bringing in people from the community to talk about things that affect your health, your economy, anything basically here in East Tennessee that we encounter. We've got a little bit of everything for everybody on the show. We'll have some news information. We may sneak in a line or two about sports since that's my first love, but we are going to just kind of focus on how to make your community better and different issues that impact your health, your happiness, your well-being. Like I said, my name's Jennifer Burton. I am an attorney here in East Tennessee. I'm originally from right outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and I've moved around quite a bit. I joke that I was a paper brat growing up. I've lived in the Southeast. I've lived in the Midwest. I've lived in the New England area. And all of that being said, I ended up coming back here to what I consider home now, which is Knoxville. And I've lived here almost 20 years total. Moved here in 1998, the year of the national championship, to just, go to UT and have a great time. And it was an amazing 4-year experience, and moved away a little bit and went to Memphis for law school and decided that the west side of the state was too far from the beautiful mountains that I'd become accustomed to. Came back here in 2006 and joined a downtown law firm then, did a little bit of criminal defense work, some juvenile work, and then expanded into the Sevier County area for a while, and now I run a law firm. We have 2 offices. Our corporate office is in Maryville, Tennessee, and we have a satellite office in Sevierville, but we travel. I joke anywhere in the state of Tennessee we will go, from the upper corner in Bristol to over to the Nashville area. So the great thing is, here in 2019, with electronics and email and everything as computer friendly as it is, that you've got a lot more mobility than you did even 5 or 10 years ago. So our law firm specializes in a couple of different areas of law, but what we really focus on is being your family's law firm. What we say is we want you to be able to give us a call and say, hey, I've got this issue, Bobby got a DUI, or Sally's wanting to do an adoption, or, we've got somebody needing disability. We want to be able to help your family. So we don't classify ourselves as a family law firm. We just classify it as your family's law firm. And our goal in our heart is just to reach out and be able to help people and be able to get you where you need to be. This hour, I'm so excited because we're going to have a guest come in, David Mehta. He's a local entrepreneur. He's also a realtor here in the Knoxville area. He's amazing. He's a go-getter. And he's a good example of somebody that we would reach out and tell our clients. We have clients who call and say, hey, Jen, I need, a realtor. Or, Jen, look, I'm looking to buy a house. I need to look into financing. We love having those referrals in our back pocket to say, listen, here's who has done a good job for me in the past, and here's who I've used personally. On the legal front, we have clients come in and they'll have amazing ideas. We're really blessed to have just clients that are very talented. And, sometimes they come in and say, hey, Jen, I want to build a rocket ship, or I've written this great song and I need a copyright. Well, that's a little outside of our box. But what we like to do when it comes to that is we like to be able to just kind of move these people where they need to be, get them hooked up to the right people who can help them, give them some options, like who is going to do a good job. We might say, hey, there's 2 or 3 people that we've used in the banking industry that we trust, or that sort of thing. We really want to be there for our families, and we like those longstanding relationships, because you really cannot fully represent somebody if they're just a number on a page, or if they're just a file to you. So that's kind of how our firm is couched. Now, we do have 3 areas that we probably practice in the most. We do a lot of Social Security disability work here in East Tennessee. We've been doing that since 2008. What we really like about the Social Security disability area is being able to help people who have worked hard their whole lives, paid in and then have come upon usually unfortunate either mental or physical limitations that prevent their ability to work. And so we really like working with those people and those families. That's also a really hard time. Financial stress is so, so difficult. So when you have a breadwinner that is out of the loop and not able to work, it can be really, really difficult. So we love doing the Social Security disability area. We also really enjoy the family law arena. Unfortunately, a lot of couples are not able to make it, end up divorcing. It's a really hard time emotionally for families. It's a hard time financially for families. It impacts not just the husband and wife. It often impacts, their businesses, or it impacts especially their children, their parents, their friends. And it's never easy when you're taking one household and dividing it into two, because there's less time with the kids and less money. And so we do a lot of family law, and we try to help our families go through that. One of the things we really try to do is get people involved with counseling if they need it, support groups. There's a lot of resources out there in East Tennessee available when you're going through those family law scenarios. Probably our happiest arena in family law is being able to do adoptions. It's a great, great time. It's always happy. Judges love it. Advocates love it. Our families love it. We love being able to do adoptions. And we love being able to give children the homes that they really need and desire, and be able to give parents. We have a lot of parents who've been waiting a long time to be moms and dads, and we love being able to kind of help them along. Another area that we really do a lot of work in is criminal defense. The criminal defense market around here is awesome because we have really good judges, and we have amazing prosecutors who work on the other side who are very zealous. And so we really need a lot of competent criminal defense attorneys. And that's an area, some people find themselves in just some unfortunate circumstances. And we like to be able to work with the facts. And a big thing our firm focuses on is continuing education, which is so important. It's easy when you're in a profession. And I've been doing this almost 15 years to kind of get in a rut and get stuck and just say, oh, this is how it's always done. And we try really hard at Burton McInnis just to work hard and keep on the cutting edge of the legal needs of our community. And to do that, we send our staff to different continuing education seminars. We try to do a lot of online training, video training, try to think outside the box and say, okay, how can we help our clients? How can we be better for our clients? And I had a judge one time, I'll never forget, back in Memphis, tell me, if you don't make one mistake a day, you need to retire because you're obviously not doing something right and you're not being aggressive enough. And I think that's been true. So, we just kind of moving that away and trying to help our clients. And that's kind of a little bit about our firm and what we do. And like I said earlier, one of the things we do is we try to help our clients. They're family to us. We try to help them get to where they need to be, whatever their need is. And so I'm really excited today to have David Mehta on our show. He's with Realty Execs. He has done a little bit of commercial real estate and residential real estate, and he is amazing. I've known David for a while now, and he is just super aggressive, very accessible, super competent, and we are so excited to be talking about just some different issues. So, David, I'm going to welcome you to the show today. Feel free to hop on the mic.
Yeah, definitely, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I think you're doing a great job with your show, number one. And
thanks.
We're going to have a great time talking real estate, some of the stuff that can come up at the ninth inning. We were kind of talking about a few of those before we started. Yeah. And just a lot of different stuff going on. Like I said, I'm excited to be here. What are one of the things with what you do? I think we talked about this a little bit with real estate from a legal perspective. What are some things that you've come across that you've seen?
Well, one of the things that I've seen is families who are families are trying to hit that gap. It's like they really want to buy a home. I have a lot of families that are hardworking, they're renting, and they feel like, hey, I'm throwing this money away for rent, and I'm paying renter's insurance, I'm paying all this, but I want to get into a home. And so a lot of the times my families are, they're kind of missing that mark. They can't quite qualify for the mortgage. They're trying to see how that can be affordable. And so that's one thing that when I have people come to me and say, look, and especially sometimes coming out of divorces, I'll have people who are single parents all of a sudden and say, okay, I need to buy. I can't quite make it over the hump to buy. So I like to be able to kind of help them with mortgages. So, what do you tell somebody who's got that desire, wants to be a homeowner? I think that's the American dream. We all want to be homeowners. But how do you get there if you're not making, huge money, or if you've got some credit issues, or let's say that you don't have a lot to put down? Like, are there options out there for buyers who don't sit there and say, okay, I've got the 20% down, I've got this great six-figure income.
Great questions. And there's so much to it. So 20% down used to be like the standard, it's like save your 20% and then you'll get your house. But now, the government has stepped in, with FHA loans and things like that. A good mortgage broker is going to make sure that they, for the most part, minimize, if that's the client's wishes, how much they have to put down. You can put as little as 3.5% down. And some loans now, it's 0% down. They're called USDA loans. A mortgage broker would be, somebody to talk to about how those work, but they're great in terms of keeping, the client's costs low up front. And we're going to get into that and a lot more stuff here in just a little bit, I'm sure, but lots to talk about for sure. It's going to be an exciting show.
I am just so excited, David, to have you here. And like you said, we are going to get into so many things. I hope you guys will all hang around. We're going to talk about some super boring legal issues, but we're going to also talk about some exciting things to do if you're considering to jump into the real estate market, whether it's commercial or residential. So I cannot wait to get that. Again, you are listening to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton. And when we come back, we're going to be here with David, and we're going to go into some great things here on News and Talk of East Tennessee, News Talk 98.7 WOKI, and figure out how to best help you if you're thinking about jumping in that real estate market.
You're listening to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton here on News Talk 98.7. Burton McKinnish can be found online at burtonmckinnish.com or by phone at 865-233-1105. And now back to your host, Jennifer Burton.
Welcome back to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. If you're just tuning in, this is our third show, and we're so excited to be here with you tonight. Justice Talks is dedicated to discussing various legal issues that impact you, as well as just community issues, your happiness, your health, your well-being. Spring is finally here, although I don't know if the weather this week has it's been a little bipolar, but spring is here. Hot, cold, wet, sunshine, everything, and we're moving into spring. And as we do, a lot of people are thinking about real estate. Everybody says spring is a great time of year to list your house, and so as I introduced before the break, David Mehta, who is a local entrepreneur and a friend of mine, is here. He's with Realty Execs, and he's going to be here tonight just to talk about everything real estate, residential, commercial, things you should do, shouldn't do, just some pitfalls you can avoid. I'm going to supplement a little bit of his information with some legal things along the way, just to kind of help you guys out when it comes to the purchase, the sale, the listing, the transfer of your real estate. David, welcome in tonight. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you again for having me, Jennifer. I think we're going to have a great time here today talking real estate. One of the things I think, just recently we had a sale of a property, and right. We can get into that and how that process was for you, how quickly we were able to get a buyer in this market. It's just unbelievable right now. I
will say this. I was thinking the other day when I was getting ready for the show, I have bought 4 homes in 14 years and never have I had it move as quickly as it did most recently, or as smoothly as it did, which is, I know, not the case for a lot of buyers. And buying a home is such an emotional, I know for a real estate agent, someone who's, in the profession, it may not be, but for a buyer and a seller, it's so emotional. A lot of times it's where you've raised your family, or you're downsizing due to financial issues, or you're getting the upside because you're doing well. And it can be so exciting, but it can also be a little bit nerve-wracking.
It can be crazy, and you're right. And, I remember when we talked, I was like, expect something to go wrong. Every deal, there's stuff that happens, but it did go through really well, and I'm glad. But, this market is just insane right now. I mean, you're seeing homes just fly off the shelves, is one way to put it. But then, now keep in mind, a lot of people, the public doesn't know this, sometimes it's about half the homes listed don't sell the first time. So they become expired. And we can get into why that might be.
Well, and I know when I was looking, there was a home I really liked. It was in the North Shore area, and I really liked it. Thought, man, it looked great. And it was on the market for a while. It dropped off. I just happened to notice. I looked yesterday, and it's back on the market, but it had been off for a while. So is that common to put it on there, take it off for a little bit? And then I want to ask you just something that has intrigued me since I've just gone through this. On the Zillow and some of those sites, you'll see days on the market. Is that accurate, or is sometimes that a little misleading?
It is misleading, just to put it in general. I've been, doing this for over 3 years now. I have a big, real estate background prior to that. But when you look at a company like Zillow, they're a private company. All of their data is basically downloaded from real estate agents. Whatever the real estate agent puts into the MLS as accurate information that they've went over, that's what Zillow is extracting. However, they don't always do it correctly. They have estimates that, many people in the industry would agree are not accurate, whether they're overvalued or undervalued. For example, you might be on one side of the street, and because of a comp in that area, it looks like your home is worth a lot. But we know the way the market is, maybe the school zone cuts off at a particular street.
Right.
And that value actually doesn't reflect what it really will go for.
Well, and I know even in my profession, I work a lot in Knoxville, but I also work in these outlying counties like Sevier County, for example. Mm-hmm. And I know, sometimes you'll hear attorneys if they're divorce attorneys in mediation, because I mediate some, and they'll say, we'll just use the Zillow estimate or this estimate.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here cringing going, oh, please don't use just Zillow, because like in those outlying communities like Sevier County, for example, you may have a subdivision and then it butts up to a farm. Yeah. So I don't know that Zestimate and I'm picking on Zillow, but there's a number of sites out there. I don't know that those are really an accurate way.
They're not. And you got to keep in mind, they take the human aspect out. So it's a bot, essentially. It's an algorithmic calculation. It's not, it doesn't know what all to calculate. There's so many variables, and real estate is so fragmented that there's no way to get a legitimate comp other than having a professional come out and look at, with the owner, what's sold recently. Because, you can put your home on the market for any price.
Right.
That does not reflect real value. The real value is, what are people voting with their dollars with? So what's pending and what's sold are the only comps that you should be taking into consideration.
And I think you touched on something that's, I see this a lot in my practice. I see people that come in and they see their home, and it's their home. They've lived there. They've poured into it. Right. They've remodeled the bathroom. They've put their blood, sweat, and tears into it and their money. And so they think their home is worth, so much money. And then I tell people, I'm like, let's get an appraisal. That's usually a really good way. And correct me if I'm wrong. That's a really good way to work with an appraiser, a certified appraiser, and say, look, because that appraiser can look and see what's sold in the area, what's been bought in the area, I know for me, the home that I just recently sold was near the water, but not on the water.
Right.
So it's
makes
like
a big difference.
Right. So my comp is not going to be what's dockable lakefront. But
exactly. But now Zillow would not be able to tell you that.
Right.
That's a good point. You just said it. You could objectively make that determination, but Zillow will not reflect that in their algorithm. So, to answer your question, I always say, it doesn't cost you anything to contact, myself or another real estate professional. And there are many great ones out there. We can talk about that too. To just get an opinion. You don't even have to pay for an appraisal, because it's, it's the market value. If you look at a tax appraisal, they're traditionally, not what the market would bear, meaning that a lot of the times the market has a higher value than a tax appraisal.
Right.
Now, a traditional appraisal from a bank, typically those are, great to go by, but they may not be what the home sells for. Sometimes those are a little bit over what the home is worth. Not always, but often. So there's just a lot of variables in play. It's always good to get many opinions and then come to a conclusion.
Well, and I like, David, I know you and I have talked about this off air before. One of the things a realtor can do is they can come in and say, yeah, this house in your neighborhood sold for X amount of dollars, but there may be something about that house you didn't know. Like there may be something more, there may be something great in there, an enhancement that you didn't know about your neighbor, or there may be something kind of detrimental that you can say, well, your house may sell for more because this house had this issue or that issue. That's something you're not going to know from an internet website.
That's true, yeah. You're not going to know that. And there's, like I said, even notwithstanding that alone, at the end of the day, the home does have to appraise when lenders are involved, right? So let's say that you magically got somebody to show up with a great offer. If the home doesn't appraise, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be able to be financed. So,
and that was one thing I wanted to ask you about. I was researching for the show. One of the things I saw, it said, I was reading, there's so many articles out there about real estate, but it said, what are some 4 main issues that people in this, when they're looking to buy, that they find? And one of the things was, what happens if you have a low appraisal? Is there a way to remedy that? Let's say I find the home of my dreams. I make an offer on it. The bank comes in and the appraisal, they say, no, we can't do that. Is there a way to remedy that, or do you lose the home?
Sure. There's 2 ways. One is you can just pay the cash difference. That would be one option. But who wants to do that? Who wants to pay what the bank is saying isn't the value? So typically you would have an issue where the buyer feels like maybe they're paying too much. But if they love the home and they want it, there's a chance there. Now, I've had experience where I've had to get on the phone with an appraiser, find out why they deflated the value of a home perception-wise between all the parties involved.
Okay.
And they looked at it, and there was an issue where there was a lot of distressed homes, a lot of foreclosures at that time. So that was crippling the value of this beautiful, wonderful home that these people wanted to sell and these buyers wanted to buy. And, the banks looked at it a little bit more objectively and didn't just count the distressed homes, which is what they call those, and we were able to get it done. But it's not always that easy, and it usually, whatever number they put on it is traditionally what they're going to go with. And by the way, it's really not the agent's job to try to change that either, but it doesn't hurt to have them look at it a second time.
That's what I was going to ask you as an agent. And David, there are real estate agents to me are like attorneys. There are some amazing real estate agents who are so helpful and really look out for their clients. You're one of them. And this is not a plug, but David Mehta, an amazing realtor if you guys need anything in the real estate market. But there's also real estate agents out there, like attorneys, who are maybe not that aggressive, not that compassionate for their clients. What do you look for in a good real estate agent? Like, what kind of sets a good real estate agent apart from just your run-of-the-mill, okay, I'm listing it, doing one or two open houses and calling it a day?
Well, a couple of things. It just depends upon the dynamic. This is a dynamic business. Let's be, realistic. It's very dynamic. So the person that you want representing you should have some of those qualities. They shouldn't be, focused on just one thing. You also look at now there's so many real estate teams. So if I go on a listing appointment and you're getting me up front and you see my demeanor, you see how I'm communicating, you have confidence in me. And then I'm taking that ball and I'm passing it to somebody who you just pointed out maybe isn't aggressive. Maybe they don't have the same drive, the same experience, the same intelligence on how to deal with some of these issues that will definitely come up. Right. That's not always, sort of stated to the client if you're dealing with some of these larger teams. They're just kind of getting the business and then passing the ball. And
that happens in the legal profession. We come in and we say, I'm the senior partner and I've got two associates that work for me who are amazing. They're awesome. But a lot of times people see me and they relate to me. And then if they have to work with an associate, they don't want to. So I think it's really important to be upfront when you have a client come in and saying, hey, look, we're working as a team, and make sure everybody knows that there's different components of the team.
That would be the correct way to do it. Now, that would be ideal, but that doesn't often happen, unfortunately. Now, another thing, too, very quickly I'll touch on is that you want to, have an agent that's, has your best interest, right? That should go without saying, but it's got to be somebody that's willing to put in the work and not have one of these homes that sit on the market and expire, and then you're left wondering, why didn't my home sell? And all of your plans are completely altered if it doesn't go off market.
David, we're up on a hard break, but we are going to be right back to continue this conversation on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
You're listening to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton here on News Talk 98.7. Burton McInnish can be found online at burtonmckinnish.com or by phone at 865-233-1105. And now back to your host, Jennifer Burton.
Welcome back to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. We were just talking with David Mehta of Realty Executives about what a good real estate agent should look like, what sets them apart. And David, we were just at the end of the last segment, just kind of getting into, what makes a real estate agent good? Like what should you be looking for when you're out there? So kind of touch on that and kind of tell us like some special things you've done, some things that have kind of just, meant a lot to buyers or sellers that you've represented over the years.
Oh, definitely. And we talked about it a little bit. So one of the other things that I was going to mention is, it's all presentation. So if roughly half of the homes listed don't sell, they expire off the market, right? And the sellers are like, what am I going to do? That's a lot of my business is just dealing with expired listings, as well as, upfront, listings like with yours and a lot of other folks. But with these, typically you'll find that the agent just put a sign in the yard, put a lockbox on, and that was it. Okay. Now that's not enough to sell a home. And that's why a lot of them fall off the market. I had an interesting, situation here not too long ago where some clients of mine, they came to me through a referral, and they had an expired listing, and their dream and their goal for health reasons was to move to Florida. That's where they had, a doctor that they had frequented and that they needed to be down there.
Okay.
But they were in, the Knoxville market, and, they love Knoxville, but for health reasons they had to be there, right? So they had given up. They literally had given up, and even when they met with me, they're like, well, what are you going to tell us differently? I mean, they were really burnt out. And I said, well, listen, the issue here, and I showed them, like we talked about earlier with Zillow and pricing, right? I said, this is where your price of your home should have been. It wasn't that far off of where it was listed. I was like, but this is really your biggest hurdle. Right. You're priced out of the market just by enough to where you're getting no attention.
Well, and proper pricing, I think, is so important in the market. Just from a prospective buyer, I know when I was looking, and I would sit there and filter my search engine, if my top dollar was X, I'm not going to do X plus $5,000 even.
You're not, yeah.
Even though over the life of a 30-year mortgage, it might not, or you can negotiate, but I think when you have that budget in mind, you have that number, and especially maybe for first-time homeowners who are struggling and they're in the lower price range, like you are really stuck. So I think proper pricing is so important. But
it is.
As a real estate agent, have you experienced agents who will say, okay, we're going to price it how you want to price it? Like, who determines that price? Is it you? Is it your seller?
It's a little bit of both. With these folks, they, like I said, they were referred to me, and we got into the meat of the issue, right? And I told them this is one of the biggest issues, as well as marketing. I mean, the photography and how this home was marketed was just, it was atrocious. I mean, it was just a complete, a dog could have done a better job. It was that bad. So, we got the price right, had the home on the market. The husband, very apprehensive, just was like, he's like, this will never work out. Just kind of,
right.
And I just rolled with him. He was a good guy.
And he's probably been burned a little.
He's been burned a lot. He was just like, David, you're just telling me this. He's like, just blowing smoke. And I said, no, trust me. Trust this process. And if I'm wrong, I'm not that wrong. I mean, we can all be a little bit off. I said, if I'm wrong, I'm probably not that wrong. And we'll adjust. Sure enough, within a week, it was under contract. It was a cash offer. We closed that home in less than a month. Now, here's what's interesting about this story. The buyer was from California. They lowballed this guy $80,000 below the list price.
Oh my goodness.
Only because they weren't familiar with this market. This guy had cash, and he just sent his, agent to do it. And even the agent and I spoke. I said, this will never work. So we countered, and she educated him after the fact. And my client the whole time was like, I don't even want to counter. This is insulting. I said, no, you got to let me handle this for you.
Right.
We'll get you to the finish line. And through communication, through not giving up and saying, well, that's a low ball offer, and not just saying, hey, let's forget about it, we got them to the finish line. And that's only because of having, like you talked about, the right qualities in a good agent, not giving up, working hard, presenting the property in its correct light so that it's marketed. You're bringing in enough attention to where you can get an offer within that first 30 days. That's what you should be striving for.
And I think you brought up something really important. And I think this is important, whether it's the legal field, whether it's the medical field, the real estate market, is communication. And I think that is so key, because I have a good friend who recently was trying to buy a house. They were using this agency. They would go see a house. They'd say, yeah, I'm going to make an offer. 2 days would lapse. They would go to, and the house is already under contract. And so I think the communication, the timeliness of the communication, and the quality of the communication, not setting up that prospective buyer or seller with false hope.
Absolutely,
keeping them realistic.
And you're right. You're a fantastic attorney. We can talk for days about how great of a job you do. But if I'm paying you to give me legal counsel, then I'm probably not going to question it and pretend like I have that experience. So when an agent's saying, hey, if this home meets all your needs and you need to think about it, that's okay. But at least get them to the line to say, what you stand to lose in this market is that there's probably 5 or 6 other people ready to throw down a great offer.
Right.
Even if your offer is good, theirs might be great. You have to be prepared for that. You can't put your clients in a situation where they're overpaying on something, but you definitely don't want to have them lose the property, right? So you need somebody that has experience, not just a license.
Right.
Very quickly, I can tell you, it's the number, I believe it's like 90% failure rate, because anybody can get a real estate license, relatively speaking. It's not like the hardest thing. The hardest thing is to be successful in this business by doing all of the right things all of the time, being disciplined, and doing that every day and not treating it as a hobby. And unfortunately, you do have that in the market, but that's why you have 90% fail out the first year. And I think by year 3, it's like there's only 3 to 4% left. And you would look at, there's roughly 4,000 to 5,000 licensed agents in the Knoxville metropolitan area. Probably only about 5 to 10% are doing, legitimate work as a full-time business.
Well, and that's what, it's amazing to me. It's funny you brought that up. It's amazing to me, when you're talking about buying or selling a home. I've had friends, people that I've known for years, will say, oh, well, I have my real estate license. Yeah. So I had no idea I don't know if they got it thinking, I don't know what the thinking was.
It's like I passed the bar exam, but I'm just kind of,
I'm just hanging out
at the bar, not really
David,
doing any work.
Back in, we had a big tank back in 2008, the big, everybody freaked out. Real estate went down. I had a lot of clients in construction, new construction, cabin rentals, that sort of thing. And it was a tough time financially for a lot of people across the nation. some forecasters are saying that may happen again. I know Knoxville was not hit as hard as some areas like Florida, California, some other areas. What would you tell people if they're considering, like, hey, I might be listing my home? Is now a good time to list? Do you wait? What do you tell people when people say, I might be considering listing? Like, what should they be thinking about when they're considering that? Like, what goes into the decision to list your home?
Good question. I do want to be upfront. Obviously, my license is in real estate, and we get slapped on the wrist if we talk about financial planning and all this stuff.
Sure.
But getting that out of the way, obviously seek your financial planner. It would be very, what's the right word here? It would not be very wise for people to assume that something like that will not happen again.
Right.
I think we're probably overdue. Now, it will not be like, oh, wait, because you have to understand that was a centrally concentrated housing market crash, right?
Right.
But if you look at the stock market as an indicator, it's been going up for so long, there probably will be some sort of disruption. Having said that, Knoxville is very resilient. I mean, you look at Knoxville, I've lived here. I'm 35 years old. I've lived here 32 out of those years. I've had many opportunities to leave Knoxville for, lots of opportunities, 6-figure incomes. And I said, you know what, this is where I want to raise my family. This is where I want to be. I made a conscious decision to do it here on my own 2 feet. Right. And the reason why is because it's a resilient place to live. It's a great place to raise a family and live, but it's so resilient that even in 08, yeah, it hurt, but it didn't hurt as much as it did in some of these, coastline areas and a lot of the other parts of the country.
And I've been in Knoxville a lot. I moved here in '98 for college, and my dad started at UT, and had to move back in state North Carolina after his father passed away, and so kind of his dream was for one of us to finish at Tennessee. And
Keith,
love Keith.
He's a fantastic guy.
I'd love to have him on one day. You guys would all love him. But anyway, so I finished at University of Tennessee, and at the time thought, well, I don't know if I'll stay here. And I came back here because Knoxville does offer so much as a community. And I've seen, one of the things I've seen over the last, 20, 21 years now, I'm starting to tell my age a little, it's just Knoxville recreating itself. It seems like, if you look at the downtown area and that revitalization, and you look at like the South Riverfront, which used to was not a great part of town. And now there's so much going on down there. And then you look out west and there's just, a lot to offer out there, the parks and the more typical, I would say, yuppie suburban living out there. And then you have the Bearden area, which is, you see new shops and some higher. I noticed today, even just driving in on Kingston Pike, there's a lot of higher end shops going up. Mm-hmm. So you see Knoxville just kind of recreating itself. And obviously we're in a beautiful setting. So we have the mountains, which are a huge draw because, one of the things I love, having lived in North Carolina from the time I was 4 till I was 12, I grew up in the Blue Ridge Mountains right outside of Asheville. So I love the fact that I can put my kids in the car and be to the mountains here in 30 to 45 minutes and hike and just enjoy that. So is that what really drives it coming? Is that the area and kind of the economy and just the people of Knoxville and the resiliency? Does that kind of keep the real estate market here not bulletproof, but a little bit safer?
There's a lot of factors, a lot of variables. I would say that's certainly one of the bigger ones. The others too is just we have a very, we'll call it a friendly tax system. It's great for business. It's great for employees. It's great for small business. There's many, many different factors. Knoxville is growing. Nashville, believe it or not, a few years ago was the #1 real estate market residential in the country. Oh, yeah. Nashville. Now, Nashville, you could say that looking back, well, yeah, we see that, but Knoxville wasn't too far behind then. Okay. Now, Knoxville is in this stage of tremendous growth. I think over the next 10 to 15 years, this is where you want to be. This is what I've been myself when I was just telling you. I planted my feet here because I know that for the largest economic growth for myself, my family, and everybody in the community is going to start happening over the next 10 to 15 years. And that's solely because of, where we've come from and where we're headed. So will we be like Nashville? Not for a long time, but we're in that in-between growth stage. Whereas, like Maryville is going to be like what Knoxville was, a time ago. But Knoxville is going to be that new kind of booming area to be in. So.
Well, David, I want you to hang on. I want to talk a little bit more about being an entrepreneur here in East Tennessee when we come back on News Talk 98.7.
You're listening to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton here on News Talk 98.7. Burton McInnish can be found online at burtonmckinnish.com or by phone at 865-233-1105. And now back to your host, Jennifer Burton.
Welcome back to Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton here on the News and Talk of East Tennessee, News Talk 98.7 WOKI. This week's Legal Minute is dedicated to the first responder of the month, and in this case, there's multiple agencies who deserve a round of applause for their recent work. The Appalachia High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area named the Drug Related Death Task Force as Task Force of the Year recently. We have an opioid crisis here in East Tennessee, and we would like to thank the men and women of these agencies. The Knox County District Attorney General's Office, the Knox County Regional Forensic Center, the Knox County Sheriff's Office, Knoxville Police Department, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Tennessee, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. The goal of the task force is to pursue the disruption and the dismantling of drug trafficking organizations, which ultimately leads to fewer overdose deaths in our community. As a task force, they've been so successful in dealing with the supply of lethal drugs in our community. It's still a problem, and we're still working every day to fight it, but we would really like to thank the men and women of these agencies who are helping to reduce the supply of lethal drugs into our community and save lives on a daily basis. Thank you for the Legal Minute. We're now going to get right back to visiting with David Mehta of Realty Execs. David, we were just finishing up talking a little bit about all things real estate, but one thing I think that, people need to understand is real estate agents, especially if they're out there, they are an eat what you kill kind of industry. You and I are both entrepreneurs. We both are business owners. We both are out there trying to serve our clients, our customers. So, David, just tell me a little bit about what your experience is like as an entrepreneur, what works for you, what's so important, kind of, what makes a difference. And I think this is important because we've got listeners out there who are sitting there going, you know what, I'm tired of working 9 to 5 for somebody else. I've got this dream. I've got this passion. I want to pursue this dream and passion. And it is scary, but it's a good scary. So for their listeners out there who are thinking about this, let's just talk a little bit about kind of, what kind of pushed you over the edge to say, look, I can do this? Yeah,
great questions. And, I love entrepreneurship. It's probably, I'm more passionate about that than anything, and that just bleeds into real estate, right? So, I can remember working, jobs and saying, I know that I could do more. I never had any desire to move up in a company. I always had the desire to say, what can I learn from my job in this company, and then help put that into my own business one day. And there was a time, where it was just time for me to do that. I'd succeeded very well at a company I worked for with Cellular Sales of Knoxville. Dane Sism has done a great job with Verizon through that company. Yeah. And many people are familiar, but I did as well as anybody could do there. And it was just, you either move up or you move out. And I didn't want to move up. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to do that. It's not me. So it was risky, but I'd run other small businesses. I ran a publishing business through Amazon, cell phone businesses. Real estate was just the perfect fit. And it was risky. I've got 3 kids, 3 beautiful girls. My wife stays at home with them. And there's a lot on the line. You can't just say, well, let me just try this out. Right. You do have to plan. So number one, plan, take your time and figure out what are your goals and your timelines. How much money are you going to have to set aside, and then go after it. As far as how to be successful, though, that's really the key. You need to figure out what's the biggest lever to pull. For me, it's communicating with people. This is a form of that. We're talking to the public here, but just every day, I'm on the phones. I'm calling sellers. I'm calling buyers. I want them to know who I am and what I do well. So when that opportunity comes, my name's in the hat. And as long as I can get in front of them, I can earn their business. And earning their business is the biggest compliment you can have. In fact, when I met with you, you remember that it was my birthday. Right. Most people on their birthday, they're out partying and having fun. I truly love what I do so much that to go for a listing appointment any day is exciting for me. I look forward to it. And that's when you love what you do. Right. And then that just shows, you're going to do well financially, and you're going to be helping your clients. And David, I will say that when I met with you, it was on a Friday evening, and he came out to the house and took time on his birthday on a Friday with his patient wife waiting to come and just to reach out and grow his business. And that's something I think small business owners and entrepreneurs in general, as you grow, it takes so much time, so much dedication. And there are going to be days, I think, my experience, there's going to be things that you try and it works really well. There's going to be things that you try and think, man, we could have done that better. What was I thinking? And so I think it's so important. You and I are both in the people business. That's how I feel about the law. You see a lot of these big national firms where you get these 1-800 numbers, and especially, for example, in Social Security.
there's a lot of these 1-800 numbers on TV, and I'll have claimants who will come and hire me, and they'll say, I had this big national firm.
Right.
I never saw my attorney face to face. I never talked to him or her face to face.
Exactly.
They showed up at the hearing. I didn't know what they looked like. And to me, that is such a loss, and that is not the vision, I think, for, your company. I know you love talking to people and dealing with people. And for my company, it's just our vision is people and helping people,
Well, you've got a great reputation, and I mean, it's very well known, and your ability to build those relationships with your clients, face to face, and produce the result for them. It's not, like I said earlier, I'm going to show up, shake your hand, and then hand the ball to somebody else. I don't do it that way, and neither do you. It is about serving at the highest level, especially when you're dealing with, like you just talked about, elderly people dealing with Social Security issues. I mean, the sort of stuff that goes on with that, you need somebody that's not just interested in, hey, how much can we get out of this? There's a lot more that goes on than just the money aspect.
And you miss so much, I think, across the board. And you hear this, you hear this in churches, you hear this in motivational speeches, I hear this on Continuing Edge. If you don't really listen to your clients, you miss a lot. And I know that's true in my profession. They'll, a client may say something that to them is inconsequential, but to me can make a difference in their case, for example.
Right.
And you miss that if you're just pushing people through like a file. And
That's
if
true.
you're, and there's
true.
a lot of people that put a ton of money in advertising, but then they forget the most important part, which is the actual people that we represent.
You're 100% right. The way I look at that too, just very briefly, I'll tell you, when I earn a customer's business, a client's business, and get their trust, and I'm listing their property, which is part of the process, but selling the property, going into contract, I'm creating jobs for another buyer's agent, perhaps, if they bring an offer. I'm creating a job for a home inspector, appraisers, mortgage brokers. They all get to be sharing in on that, and that's a big part of what I do. So that's that entrepreneurial spirit. You're creating opportunities for people if you're doing your job correctly.
Right.
And that's, again, where it's at. You do have to love what you do, though.
Okay, and that's one thing is you have to really be, and I try to tell, we've got some younger associates with our firm, and I say, we've had some in the past, and I say, look, this doesn't need to be a job to you. This needs to be a passion for you. This needs to be, I really enjoy doing it, and you're so wrapped up in doing what you love that you forget that you have to do it to make a living. It just becomes second nature to you. And I think if you're doing that, it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like a burden. You enjoy doing it. I found myself being a little bit of a dork yesterday. I'm sitting in my office and I had this cool new legal issue come up on a case that I've never had before. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can research this and I think I can get this angle and it'll really be successful for my client. That kind of excitement, if you can keep that up, that is really what drives entrepreneurs, whether it's opening a restaurant or doing, sales or doing real estate or practicing law. I think that really just, makes a big difference.
Yeah, and when you have a passion to serve, and you understand that too. A lot of people don't, they get into business or they want to be successful, but it's always about themselves, at least initially. But when you get experience and you've been, in the arena, so to speak, you realize you're there to serve. You're there to serve the public and do the best you can. And the rewards come out of that. But that has to be the sort of intangible, that has to be the first thing.
Absolutely. Well, David, you have been amazing tonight. I'm so excited that you took time out of your busy schedule and away from your family to be here with us, spend the hour with us. I just want to thank you again, David Mehta of Realty Execs. If you need an amazing realtor, I can tell you firsthand, you will not find anybody that works harder in the industry than him or that's more competent and that's more just there with you step by step, even when you get a little stressed out. So, David, just thank you so much for
Jennifer, thank you. It's been great. It's been a great time.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about what we have coming up. Burton McInnish is offering a free event. We love this event. We did it last year. Last year, it poured the rain on us. We are hoping we've had enough rain in East Tennessee that it is going to hold off this year. But on Saturday, April the 13th, we are doing, and this is free to the public, bring your kids out in their Easter best. We are doing a Easter bunny shoot for our kids. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Smithview Pavilion. That's at the Smith Event Center in Maryville. If you guys are familiar with Maryville, it's right across from Blunt Memorial Hospital, right behind the Smithview Funeral Home there, going out towards Townsend. So we would love to have you guys come again Saturday, April 13th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to do free photos. You can take a picture of your children with you. We're going to have eggs, a little bit of candy, just kind of celebrate spring, celebrate Easter, and just kind of as a thank you to the people of East Tennessee who were able to serve. So we hope that you guys will come out. I also want to let you know, if you have any legal needs and you want to have, we do free consultations at our firm. We believe that you need to find the right attorney. And if we're not it, we want to help you find that. But that's one reason we've always offered free consultations. So we have offices again in Sevierville, Maryville. We also do a lot of phone consults. If you're kind of outside and you don't want to drive that far in, or if you're in the Knoxville area, we'll meet with you there as well. So you can give us a call at 865-774-5515 or 865-233-1105. We also have a website, burtonmckinnish.com. Feel free to go to that website, kind of tool around, see a little bit about our team. We've got some amazing associates that work with us. We take a team approach at our firm. So we have firm meetings on a monthly basis, and then we talk every week about how to handle cases, and we get 3 or 4 attorneys working together to say, okay, what's the best way to handle this? And that has just really been successful for us over the years. So we are so excited that you have let us be here tonight at Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton. Again, I want to thank David Mehta of Realty Execs for being with us. Tune in next week as we dive into all things adoption. Are you looking to adopt? Are you looking to foster? Do you need a home study? What do you need to do to get prepared? Do you need an adoption lawyer? Are you ready to adopt? What are the considerations if you have adopted children already and expanding your family? We're going to answer all your questions on next week's show here on Justice Talks with Jennifer Burton. Next Saturday night at 6 p.m. here on the News and Talk of East Tennessee, News Talk 98.7. Have a great evening.